today in a second, but before we do, I must push you further on your relationship with Riek Machar. He, of course, now is leading an armed rebellion inside the country. The country is, in effect, in a state of civil war. You met him in Addis Ababa just a few days ago. You signed a cessation of hostilities agreement, and you laid out a process to work together on a new political roadmap. But it sounds to me like he does not trust you, and you do not trust him.
Well, as long as we are doing one thing, I can trust him if he was sincere to his words. I can trust him. But if somebody is not sincere, it will be very difficult even you yourself to trust such a person. We signed a cessation of hostilities on the 9th of this month. And on the 11th, he violated it, attacking our forces.
You think he is actually instructing his forces to continue their offensive?
Definitely. Because he did not give them orders to stop fighting after signing.
Are you saying to me that the ceasefire is effectively finished?
No, it is not finished on my side, and my forces are preserving the ceasefire. They are observing it strictly according to the orders.
I asked Riek Machar just a few days ago whether he was truly in full control of all his forces. He insisted he was. I put the same question to you. Are you truly in control of all of the forces fighting in your name?
I'm in full control because these are regular forces under my command. I'm in full control of them.
What about the Ugandan battalions who are still in this country and involved in this conflict? What about the Justice and Equality Movement fighters from the south of Sudan who are in your country fighting in your name? They are not under your control.
But no, they are not fighting in my name, and they were brought in by Riek Machar and his colleague Taban Denkai. These were the people who brought them in.
Mr. President, I've spoken to independent security sources who say that fighters from the Justice and Equality Movement from Darfur are in Bentiu and are fighting in your name.
Well, I don't believe. The time they came in is over, and we
So
already...
they did come in?
They came in when Taban was the governor. That was the time they were in Bentiu.
And what about the Ugandans? We have other reports.
Okay, the Ugandans are in South Sudan. They came in after the incident in December. But there are Ugandan forces who have been here since 2006.
But in
And
this
they were
conflict,
brought in by Riek Machar.
if I may say so, Mr. President, there is irrefutable evidence that the Ugandans have been fighting on
Yes,
your
I don't deny
side.
that. I don't deny that.
They have dropped cluster bombs.
They fought in Bor, and they stopped there in Bor. They have not gone anywhere. They are here in Juba, they are in Bor.
And they have used cluster bombs.
No, I never had that.
Well, why, when one of the international munitions clearance organizations asked for permission to go and clear cluster bombs for an area around Bor, and they were not given permission, is that because you are embarrassed about what the Ugandans are doing?
Not at all, not at all. I never got that information even, that some agency wanted to go and clear any mines around Bor. I never got that report.
You characterize this as a conflict instigated by Riek Machar, but the truth is, right now, this looks like a conflict between tribes with deep ethnic hatred fueling the fighting.
Well, it is him who has actually incited the Nuer against Dinkas. But on our side, we have never done that. The hatred, yes, has been planted in them by Riek Machar, and we, on our side, always diffuse it. We tell people, no,
Mr.
there is no revenge.
The facts don't appear to bear that out. The first serious outrageous acts of violence based on ethnicity appear to have taken place here in Juba right after December 15th. We have reports backed by evidence from the United Nations and Amnesty International of your troops going into neighborhoods in this city, seeking out newer men, taking them to security facilities and murdering them.
When I got the information that there was killings going on in the estates around Juba, I set up a commission, and then I sent in troops to arrest whoever that has taken law into his own hand.
But with respect, it was the security forces who were doing the killing based on ethnicity. They're your security forces.
I don't think, but I am not defending them. I say law does not know whom you are. If the security forces were involved in that, they must be punished for their actions.
Well, let's not say if. All of the evidence, including an extensive UN report, says your forces were responsible. Will you accept that?
I will not accept until they are investigated and then it is confirmed.
An investigation has taken place by the United Nations.
Yes, it is taking place. A commission to investigate is there.
And because
the AU also has set up a commission to come and investigate.
Because of those incidents and the deaths of hundreds of Nuer people, and the fact that you know, right across this city, Nuer people, thousands and thousands of them, fled for their lives to the safety of UN compounds, what we now have is a conflict which looks dangerously like a Rwanda-style ethnic conflict.
It will not go to that state. These people who have run to the UNIMIS camp are now coming out on their own because they have seen there is nobody who is targeting them.
But I've been in the camps. There are people in those camps who are still frightened for their lives.
Those who are inside the camps are actually people who have been politicized because Riek Machar is sending messages that don't come out. We are coming to liberate you when we capture Juba.
Is that what you say to the woman who saw her husband shot in front of their children? You say that she's been politicized? That's not politicized. That's just a woman who believes in this country today it is dangerous to be a Nuer in a Dinka majority city.
Well, these people are even lucky. The Dinkas who were in the hands of Riek Machar, you cannot get a survivor who can tell you the story of what was happening. Did you ask him whether he was able to spare any Dinka? No. Those who were in, his commander of the armed forces, Peter Gadet, murdered his own deputy commander in the division.
You talk about Peter Gadet. It is interesting that he's been identified by the Americans as an individual responsible, allegedly, for serious atrocities who has now had sanctions imposed upon him. The chief of your presidential guard has also had US sanctions imposed upon him, and the UN Secretary General has said that those responsible for the atrocities and the systematic violation of humanitarian law should be held to account in a special tribunal.
I agree.
But that could be you.
It can be me. If it is me that has given orders, I don't mind facing the law.
Did you give orders?
I did not. I did not give orders for fighting. Riek Machar gave orders for fighting, and if you were to listen to the security people, you will get it that he was ordering his forces to open fire.
See, Riek Machar says, to understand this conflict today, you have to go back. You have to go back to your governance of South Sudan over the last 2.5 years. He says that over that period, you behaved more and more like a dictator.
Well, you will have to prove. You will have to prove what have I done that shows I'm a dictator.
Well, it's an interesting point you say. Look at the evidence. let us look at the evidence. Let us look at the letter, for example, written by a group of senior US State Department officials and South Sudan experts who wrote an open letter to you in July 2013 and said this: "We joined you in your fight against the abuses of the Khartoum regime for many years, but we cannot now turn a blind eye when yesterday's victims become today's perpetrators." That was a message to you.
To correct whatever that might have gone wrong.
In your administration.
Well, even now in Obama administration, there are mistakes. In Cameroon administration, there are mistakes. You will not count them on Obama, nor will you count them on David Cameron.
But your mistakes appear to have fueled this crisis. You sacked your entire cabinet in the summer of 2013. You behaved in a way which led even the widow of the father of your nation, John Garang, to decide that you should no longer be the president of South Sudan. You oversaw an administration which repressed the media, which appeared to be limiting freedom for people in this country.
Not at all. We are a free country. The media is free. Have you seen all what they write against me? When they insult me?
I'll tell you what I've done.
Have they been arrested?
I have spoken to one journalist who said to me that after he was critical of you on the radio, he was approached by state security. They said, "We know where you live." They also reminded him that one journalist who wrote a critical column in the Tribune newspaper ended up dead.
Well, people can take the law into their own hands. They go to you at night, they threaten you, and they go.
It seems was it just coincidence that after he'd written a column describing your regime as incompetent and useless, he was killed?
See, whoever says that the regime is useless, that is their right to criticize the government. I believe there are people also who see a positive part of the government and can say positive things about the government.
But Mr. President, you know, through the course of this interview, you have directed your words and